Hi, I'm Carl from PresentationExpressions.com. In this week's tip, I'm going to talk about starting your presentation with a story. Again, I talked about starting your presentation with a story a little while ago, and I want to kind of develop that idea a little bit more and give you another tip that I like to use personally whenever I give a presentation. Now, one of the problems that people have when they try to think about a story is they think, what's my story going to be? What am I going to talk about that is interesting and unique and that'll get their attention? And then how do I change that into, or transition that into the presentation? It's really not that easy. Sometimes, though, you have to remember that you can just use the environment. And the reason why is you don't always have to relate the story directly to the presentation. If you can, that's better. But if you can't, it's also okay. The reason why it works well is because it's a good way to develop rapport with your audience, to build a relationship with your audience when you're starting your presentation. Now, as an example, I had to give a presentations workshop recently, and I wanted to tell a story, and actually had a different story that I was going to tell. But when I looked around at the audience and I looked at what they were doing, I noticed something unique that they were all doing, that they all did in common. And I thought maybe it's a cultural thing. So that made me think about, okay, cultural things, how can I relate that to my presentation? So what I did was I just told the story about what I noticed. I just said to them, it's really, really interesting, but something here in Korea is very different than back home in Canada or in Western culture. And I talked about their behavior that I thought was very unique. Now, it wasn't negative. Right? Don't be negative. Make sure it's something unique and positive. So I mentioned that thing that they were doing that I thought, wow, it's very, very cultural and very, very unique. And from that, I changed it into, it's also the same when you want to whatever the presentation was. Or I kind of related the story to the presentation. Like I said, you don't have to because it's a good way anyway to build a relationship with them. Just talking about something and then just say, all right, let me get to the presentation now. Or you can say, after your story, you can say, okay, enough of the story, let's get on with the presentation. You can do that, and then just that way transition to your presentation and just talk about whatever you want after that. So that's how you can use a story to begin your presentation. You can just talk about the environment at hand, talk about the room, the situation, the culture, whatever, and you can relate it to your presentation. Or if not, that's okay. Because remember, the purpose is to build a good relationship with your audience as quickly as possible. If they like you, they're more likely to listen to you and respond to what you're telling them. Good luck with that.